everybody for another great episode of Real Life Matters. Of course, I am your host, DBoss. This show has been brought to you today by Vance World Media, and he's up in Scarborough for his studio. And we have today a special guest, and I cannot even believe that it's 1 year already when they came on and they started this whole crusade in the colonism and stuff. And with no other further ado, I'm going to introduce to you the Canadian Congress on Inclusive Diversity in the Workplace. Equity presents the second annual George Floyd Memorial Lecture. So we have here Henry Kadu Lamboma and Moy Fung, which everybody knows. So welcome.
Thanks for having us, DBoss. How are you doing?
We're doing great. You know, I can't believe that it's 1 year already that you guys started this whole crusade and this whole on colonialism and George Floyd. And I know you've had so many events during this whole time, you know, for the year coming up to this. And I guess you guys are kind of shocked that it's also 1 year already. So first of all, before we get into that, we haven't had Henry Kadu on there, and maybe I pronounce your last name. So just tell everybody, Henry, where you come from and your background.
Well, thank you so much, DBoss, for having me. And what an honor to be a guest on this wonderful show. My name is Henry Kadu Luyombya. I was born and raised in a small East African country, Uganda. And over 15 years ago, I became a resident of Canada. I began calling Canada home. And I was working on issues of social justice at that time, from working with immigrants and refugees from Africa, the Caribbean, East and Southeast Asia, and Latin America who are new to Toronto, but also working with people who don't have legal status, some of whom were living with HIV. And now at the Canadian Congress, I'm delighted that I'm continuing that effort of making sure that there is equity and justice for everyone.
Wow, that's just so, you know, we didn't get to talk to you. They talked a lot about you, Moy Fung and Alex Ihama and Chrissy Benz. So, so for people that, if you didn't watch the other episodes, you can go back and watch them. But of course, we know Moy Fung and her background, which everybody probably, you know, maybe they get a little confused, but Moy can just tell them, just in case for people that are watching.
No, certainly. So once again, for those of you who don't know me, DBoss, thank you once again for the amazing work that you do. It's always such a pleasure to be on your platform. It has been a year since we last spoke for the first George Floyd Memorial, and this is the second year. So it's just wonderful to have these platforms where you can help to amplify the voice of social justice, and that's exactly, you know, what we're doing. So I'm Moy Fung. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I was originally born in Jamaica. I'm a very proud Jamaican, and for those of you who are watching from Jamaica, I have to say, big up Jamaica, and everywhere else as well. But big up Jamaica, okay?
No, but it's where are you from? So now you're making Henry look bad. Henry's like, sorry, I should have said big up.
So yeah,
yeah. So you know, it's just, I think, you know, just coming back from, you know, what Henry was saying, or even just being a young girl in Jamaica, you know, at a very young age, I knew that God had given me a heart for people. And as I got older, I was more, I noticed that I was gravitating towards the marginalized groups. So the older folks and children, I knew that I always had a very sensitive or tender heart for these groups. And, you know, as I've been in the field of entrepreneurship for over 16, 17 years, just really serving individuals who want to really make something of themselves, doing brand development, website development, business plan writing, and all the wonderful things as it pertains to startups. And, you know, just after George Floyd had, unfortunately, we'd witnessed his death, and the Congress was sort of birthed because, as you know, Alex had been, he's the owner of the School of Greatness, International School of Greatness, and he's been doing diversity work since 1998. And when the unfortunate death of George Floyd happened, we sort of branched off to do more of a focus, an end-to-end sort of strategy for corporations where diversity and equity and inclusion is concerned. Now, with that being said, when I first linked up with the Canadian Congress, it was, because coming from the field of entrepreneurship, at first I was wondering, well, do I fit into this space? And it was, I believe, just really bringing it before God and saying, okay, well, what is my role in all of this? God reminded me of the heart that he gave me, the heart for justice, the heart for equity, the heart for humanity. And it's from those lenses that I come to the Canadian Congress. So a lot of what I will speak about is really from that place of humanity. It's that place of understanding that we're more alike than we are different. And that if we're humans and we're living, coexisting in this world, then we have a responsibility to each other. And it's really to do what we can do to uplift each other and to also uplift and to defend the marginalized. And I have a wonderful time, just working with my team, Henry and Alex Ihama, Chrissy Benz, who's not with us today, but it's just been such a wonderful time just working with them over the last 2 years.
Wow. And so, Henry, what your role in this? What's your role?
Great stuff. So I also want, before I get to your question, to acknowledge a very brilliant young woman on our team. Her name is Desiree Souza. We have a mix of generations. This young woman brings a lot of experience and talent to our team. So DBoss, my role, just like Moy, we are a team. We don't hold a lot of titles. We grow together. We work together. But for the sake of our viewers and possibly listeners, I am on Prince Edward Island here in in Atlantic Canada. And my specific role is to head the mental health department, as well as the Atlantic region. Atlantic has 4 provinces. So I'm the head of the 4 provinces of Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, and New Brunswick. And so just like Moy said, that getting this framework of engaging communities and building it from an anti-racism perspective, the Congress is now spread across Canada, from regional offices in Vancouver, Western Canada, Moy in Central Canada, and myself in Atlantic Canada, making sure that corporations, governments, municipalities, communities, institutions, and schools get to know that social justice is the way to go. Social justice is part of human beings. And as we get into the George Floyd Memorial Lecture, we are calling upon people to really rethink the way they view Black lives and to do something about it. Hence, we call it the National Social Action Day.
Wow. And you said that this year the theme is the quest for Black representation, empowerment, and brilliance. So tell us about the theme. How did you guys come up with that theme?
I think, Henry, you should answer. You're the best to answer that one.
First, go for it.
No, go ahead.
The quest of Black representation is really getting voices of Black people in each and every decision making, in each and every opportunity, in each and every sphere, so that our voices are not only heard and listened to, but then our issues taken into account. When we are not listened to, when we are not at the table, very many things are done without our input. Let's take an example of the education sector. Imagine, DBoss, you are a lecturer at a university,
Okay.
but the student intake, there is not equitable access to students accessing the university. That creates imbalances, which is also translated in low graduation rates. And so what the Canadian Congress is saying, that let's have equitable representation within faculty as well as within student groups, but also within other institutions, whether it's healthcare, whether it is in justice systems, whether it is in municipal issues, so that there is brilliance in issues being articulated, so that our voices are listened to, so that funding grants are provided equitably, so that also there is opportunities for scholarships. People should stand for positions of power in politics without any fear or favor. And so that is part of the quest for representation.
Well, I guess, well, you guys know on the news what they had happened in Buffalo and Chicago, and I guess some other place, and I think something over on this side also happened here. So, and then you guys are doing this now. Your event is going to happen tomorrow. But how did you guys feel about that happened in Buffalo and Chicago? Like, and no. They actually outright said that, you know, the person said that, you know what, all the Black people should go back to where they came from.
Yes. You know what? It was just, it was a stark reminder that what we're doing, we have to keep doing it. You know, and that's what gives us the passion, is understanding that there are still injustices. The system is still, I would say, skewed, but, you know, others would argue to say that the system is working exactly how the colonizers intended it to work, and which is true. And it's very sad. It's very sad, as I was mentioning in an interview yesterday, that, you know, for someone like well, most of us, we love our grandmothers. We love our family members. Just imagine your grandmother went out to the supermarket, to the grocery store, to do her regular, you know, whatever day of the week, just shopping to get her fruits and vegetables and all of that stuff. And only to know that she didn't return, and she died in such an egregious way, you know, because, you know, someone, you know, doesn't like, you know, people with Black skin. You know, it was certainly a racially charged crime. And it was very evident. I haven't been following it a whole lot, only because we can only take so much, you know, emotionally. Sometimes it does become heavy. So sometimes I deliberately refuse to watch these things, but it's quite, it's disheartening. And it just goes to show that even when people want us to shut up about anti-Black racism, even ourselves, like, we might get a little bit weary or tired sometimes, because we don't want to get up and talk about this stuff every day. We want to just live life like everybody else. You know, we want to enjoy the beauty of life. We want to enjoy your families. But the reality is, as Black people, you know, there are atrocities that we face every single day. There's trauma that we face every day. And that's our reality. And ignoring it would be, you know, I mean, what would it be if we all sort of ignored the atrocities that we face? So someone has to stand up for social justice, and that's essentially what we're doing. Celebrating the second George Floyd, not celebrating, but we're really leveraging as much as we possibly can his death to educate, because some people can only identify with what they saw on TV. You know, there are many white folks who, they were oblivious to the racism that exists. And it was only when they saw what happened to George Floyd that somehow they were, you know, in some way enlightened to say, wow, you know, because they knew that if it was one of their counterpart, if it was them, it would never happen like that. But only because he was a Black man, treated as less than nothing, treated as less than a dog, really. Because if a dog, I think Alex had raised this question to somebody recently. If you have a dog, and we know how we love our dogs, we love our pets. If you have a dog and someone was kneeling on the neck of your dog like that, how would you feel and what would you do about it? For 9 minutes, and I believe it was 29 seconds. So my question to people is, if it were your son, matter of fact, if it was your dog, would you go back to life as normal? 2 years after, people do expect us to not say anything, to shut up, because it's just an illusion. But clearly, as we just saw with the Buffalo massacre, that there's still more work to be done.
Well,
absolutely.
And I guess for you, Henry, you're going to have a lot of people, mental, because now everybody's going to be afraid.
Absolutely. Racism has a direct correlation with our mental well-being, and the senseless lunatic who shot people in Buffalo, New York, needs to be called out, together with the system that enabled him to carry on this act, driving 200 miles, posting on Facebook a 200-page manifesto specifically against Black people. That was absolutely not called for. And media organizations and politicians should call it out by saying this was racial injustice. It was targeting Black people. But also here in Canada, leaders need to step up. If it happened in Buffalo, New York, tomorrow you don't know what might happen in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I think, just like my sister says, Moy, the work needs to continue. This work that we are doing, DBoss, the work that you're doing of sharing people's stories to the broader audience needs to continue. But also having some action, instead of people releasing tweets and statements condemning the violence without calling out that this was anti-Black racism. There is need for action on a daily basis. And it starts with being human. This is not about white and Black or pink or brown. It's about humanity. And until we get that urge that this is about kindness and love, that's when our mental well-being will be revived. But at this point, even people watching those videos of the shootings, our mental well-being is directly impacted. And also the research shows that there is a lot of anxiety. You don't know when the next shooting is going to happen. You don't know the depression and the lack of sleep. And this affects businesses, because when you show up tomorrow at work, you're not going to be present, and it impacts on profits. The businesses are going to suffer. They've already suffered after the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and it's suffering even in these racial tensions. And so we are saying that this has to stop. Join the Canadian Congress for the George Floyd Memorial Lecture, and come and learn and share with your counterparts, share with your families, churches, student groups.
Well, you see, a lot of people don't realize, and I'm glad that your organization has different people involved from all different backgrounds, because a lot of people's skins are darker, a lot of people are mixed today. So it impacts everybody, because everybody doesn't know who's who. That person may not, maybe he came back from a vacation and he looks kind of Black, so he got shot at. You understand? So some people, are saying, oh, wait, that probably doesn't apply to me. I'm in this. Yeah, but they're not going to turn around and look and see, well, who are you? Are you white, or did you come back, or are you Spanish? They're not going to look at that. They're just going to see you and then you look black or you look something, boom, that's it. That's the blanket they're going to put on. And that's the scary part. And a lot of people don't realize it.
Absolutely. And my whole thing is, you know, don't wait until something happens to you or happens to your loved one before you start speaking up against social injustices. You know, just the very fact of just as Henry so eloquently put it, is we're humans first, and it's really a humanity issue, right? So if we're able to identify just with that humanity, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to happen to us for us to, you know, be empathetic towards, you know, the minority groups, right? We don't have to experience that first before we can start to really care about these issues. I think everybody should care. You know, I'm not thinking that everyone should be on the front lines as it pertains to social justice, but at least do one thing. You know, Helen Keller, you know, once said that I am only one, but I am still one. And I will not refuse to do that thing that I can do, you know, even as one person. So I'm just, you know, calling for every person, really. If you're alive, you're breathing, you're a human being. Nobody's saying that you have to stand up in the front lines where social justice is concerned, but even in your workplace, you can stand for equity. You know, even it doesn't matter, even within the schools, you can stand for equity. I was speaking with an individual today, you know, about children who are in foster care, children who are in children's aid services or in care, and the Blacks and the Indigenous are overrepresented in those settings. You know, the prison system, we're overrepresented in those settings. You know, so we want to level the playing field. This is what we do. Why we do what we do is we don't just host events. Is we provide training and strategy for corporations to really build more inclusive cultures and communities, right? So that we can all be treated equitable, right? So the playing field is definitely leveled in such a way where we'll get equal chances, you know, at opportunities just like our white counterparts.
Well, I remember when you guys came on before and how you mentioned something. I don't know if it was Alex or someone, how you go to the medical school and the doctors and only you see their body, their color skin on the actual, you know, all the diagrams. So what happened to everybody else? But that's a form that we've been, you know, programmed, because you're not looking to see. And I think if we saw something else up there, people would be like, hey, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, or if it was, you know.
Yeah, no, certainly. Absolutely right. And Alex speaks about this very well too, just in terms of like, even, you know, as we study psychology, I studied psychology in university, as we study psychology and all these different aspects of, you know, higher education, a lot of research was done on white people. You know, like we weren't included in those well, I mean, you know,
maybe not knowing.
Yes, but I mean, in most of, you know, when you talk about you know, psychology and the research done around mental illness, or the research done around, you know, medical and health and all of that stuff, it wasn't we weren't included in that. We weren't represented in that. So think about, if you have an issue with whatever the issue you might have as a Black woman, going into you know, the care of a surgeon who never studied the Black body, you know, who never studied the uniqueness of our genes and all that, then imagine, you know, the errors that can take place, right?
And then also, like, because I come from a law background, so, and that's also where they wear the wigs, the wigs in the legal system. They're only made one kind of wig, and everybody, if it was Black, white, or Chinese, had to wear the same color wig.
White
so people didn't.
Yes.
That does.
I
know Henry's laughing because you see in Africa they're wearing that same wig too. So what happened to the other cultures of the wigs in there? You can't, you know, put it to your what your real hair looks like. Like, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was watching something. I said, wait a minute, that everybody's hair doesn't look like that. Was everybody?
Absolutely.
But that's a big part, though. That's a big part of colonialism, was that wig and looking white in that wig.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is a great point, DBoss. Until we start to unpacking those things that we've grown up looking at, the media showing us that justice systems have to, or judges have to wear this, or even the language that we're using, even the name that I introduced myself with, my first name, it's all colonial. And until we build systems of dismantling the colonialism to build cohesiveness, we shall stay ingrained with that colonial mindset. But here we are saying, let's look from a critical perspective. Medical illustrations, for example. Why don't we see for brown people, Black people? And the moment
Chinese people,
we talk about it, yes, you're like, oh, okay, I've never seen that, but that is also something. Our colleague, Alex, talks about Abraham Maslow, the hierarchy of needs. This is the education system telling us hierarchy of needs is like this and this. But come to ask, did Abraham Maslow ever talk to a white woman about this? Did they even ever consult a Black or Asian individual or an indigenous person? It was all about a white male. And so these narratives need to be redone, revisited, so that we begin thinking aloud and in a manner that can support equitable representation in all aspects. And that starts with me and you. The conversation we're having is a good one, but until we bring it to our families, at dinner tables, and then in our communities, cycles of things that can help us break down these can start to emerge. And at the Canadian Congress, we believe we can do that. And partly that explains what Moy said, that we have the tools and techniques to support people in even having difficult conversations on colonialism, on racism. And it starts with that education for tomorrow's lecture. And our organizations can invite us. We do trainings, we do workshops, we do strategy work and the like.
Well, we see you got a pretty big roster here with all, you know, a lot of people that are involved, and some of these people I have interviewed also that are really impacting society. Like, you know, so how many? It's just for one day. This meeting is for one day, or is it going on for two?
It's only one day. It's one day. I believe we begin at 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. So it is an all-day event. And we do have a real, great lineup of speakers, which we always do. And these are people not just for the sake of their names. These are people that are truly dedicated to social justice. And, I always look forward to these conversations because even for myself, as I dig into diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm realizing the nuances, so you can't, as a single person, even working in the educational sector, or working in the sports arena, we don't know everything about EDI and diversity, right? But I love how the intellectuals and the professors and the lawyers and the community advocates, how they bring their perspectives, and we can really see a well-rounded perspective as it pertains to anti-Black racism. So we're really looking forward to that conversation tomorrow. We're expecting close to 1,000 people. And DBoss, if you can join us, please do join us. And this is not, again, it's not just about hosting an event. It's really about impacting real change. And that's what we're about, that's what we're about.
I see you got Tanya Williams there.
Certainly, yes. Tanya Williams is a partner of us. Yes, she's doing some amazing work in Canada, Real World Institute. is her organization, and she's doing some fantastic work. I'm so proud of the work that she's doing. She used to, of course, we know Olivia, right? And why not? Yeah. I still call her Olivia.
Those days when we used to be able to watch those things.
Yes, exactly.
The young and the restless.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. To add on to Sister Moy's, that this event, the second George Floyd Memorial Lecture, is actually a historical one because of the diversity of speakers that we have. But also, we are making history to have a panel of mayors from across Canada, including the only Black mayor in Canada. At least from our research, I know there have been a few former Black mayors in Canada. There is one from Ontario who is actually a senator and who will be speaking, Senator Bernard Clement. But we have Mayor Kasim Doumbia from New Brunswick. He will be one of our guest speakers. And currently in Canada, there is no Black mayor apart from this gentleman. And we will be hearing what municipalities and cities and towns are doing to welcome people and build cohesive communities. The other thing that is important is looking at the media. We talked about our sister, Tanya Williams, but how media portrays Black people, how the media represents people of color. Is it equitable? We're going to have those conversations and very many more. So people can join us by registering at Canadian Congress on Diversity.ca. The program is long, but it's going to be fun. 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time to 4:30 p.m. May 25th, 2022. And DBoss, not only are we inviting you, but I know you have a huge following. Mm-hmm. You can share the registration link this evening and people can join, people can tweet, and the conversations can continue.
Right. Well, you guys have a lot of people on this roster, and tell the people, how much is it to come to join?
Okay, so I'll go ahead, and the admission is free. One of the things that we're very passionate about is educating individuals about social justice and what it really means to become a social justice advocate. Really opening up. Ultimately, what we do is we really want to inspire the spirit of social justice within people. So we make the events free. I
wanted to tell people that in case they're saying, "Oh my, we want to come, but how much is it?" You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the event is free. You have no excuse. And, so we're not just encouraging, we're encouraging every person to come. So whether you're white, Black, Chinese, pink, yellow, whatever color you are, please do come. And we want our Black folks to come as well, because, I think there's a lot of, on both sides, there may very well be a lot of ignorance. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And as I mentioned, the nuances of diversities, my experience is not necessarily what Henry has experienced. And I think even as Black people, we have diverse experiences, and we need to come to hear and to listen and to learn and to be enlightened and educated and inspired, really, by what will be said tomorrow. So I do invite everyone to come. The admission is free. And we want to move people from that place of not being racist to becoming anti-racist. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. Some people will say, well, I have a Black friend, I'm not racist. No, it's not good enough to be not racist. You need to become anti-racist, meaning you need to start to use your voice. If you're a person of privilege, we want you to use that privilege and to become allies, so ultimately, that's what we're aiming for tomorrow. And we certainly look forward to continuing the conversation. And I had mentioned something in an interview yesterday that each time I come to talk about George Floyd, I'm reminded about Emmett Till, which was a 14-year-old boy who was born in Chicago, went to Mississippi to visit his family, went into a store to buy, he was with his teenager friends. They were outside. He went in to buy candy, and apparently there was a rumor about him whistling at the store owner's wife. The store owner wasn't there at the time, but his wife was. And she said something about maybe him passing a remark or something like that. And that same night, when he went to bed, the store owner, his brother-in-law or half brother or whatever, went into his home, dragged him from out of his bed, beat this 14-year-old boy badly, shot him in the head, hung him on something and dumped him into the river. And all because, the wife had said he had said something, of sexual nature or something like that to her, which was not true. And would you believe that eventually he was not charged? He was found not guilty. Him and his brother-in-law was found not guilty for what was done, even though evidence proved they had all white jury. And we see the injustice over 50, 60 years ago, and we're still experiencing it we're still experiencing it, So this is why the conversation has to continue, because, after knowing about Emmett Till and after knowing that lynching and all of that was legal in those times, while it may be illegal, the acts are still being played out because the system allows it, So we just have to keep the conversation going, as Henry says, as we have to keep it going.
All right. So are there any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Thanks very much for that wonderful story, Moy. The conversation has to continue, and we are not yet there. We're on the move. And I want to say thanks to DBoss for this conversation, bringing it to the fore. There is an Indian nun or sister. Her name was Mother Teresa. She said that, and I can paraphrase, that each and every one of us, if we swept our compound, our yard, this whole world will be clean. And until we also take some ownership by behaving in the best way possible in our homes, towards our children, our spouses, our employers, our employees, our leaders, our voters, then we can expect things to get better. But until that moment when we are still struggling, then the work of social justice continues. I would like to say thank you to the Canadian Congress for giving us this platform. The event is free, like we've said, but never know, DBoss, in your network, there are people listening who might be interested in sponsoring future events. You can contact Moy, Director of Strategic Partnerships and Sponsorships. Visit our website.
We're going to post it out. I'm going to post it out as soon as we finish here. So
yes, our website is Canadian Congress on Diversity.ca. People can register, people can download the agenda, but very importantly, to move the conversations beyond virtual spaces. I'd also like to thank our Executive Director, Alex Nosahare Ihama, for the great work he's doing, as well as our colleagues, Chrissy Benz, Desiree Souza, Sophia Davis, and a few others, our volunteers, and a couple of speakers who are lined up. But also I want to thank my dear wife, Olivia Namudu Luyombya, and our lovely kids, Kyla, Layton, and Pius. They keep us going, and And for those who believe in equity and fairness, I thank you so much. And please, let's continue the conversation beyond this space.
Wow, that was beautiful.
That was beautiful. He almost didn't leave that for you to say more.
You know what? I will just end by saying, DBoss, you know, once again, just thank you for hosting the Canadian Congress on Inclusive Diversity and Workplace Equity. And thank you for everyone who will listen to this broadcast or watch this broadcast. You know, I certainly hope that there's something that we said today that will encourage you not just to show up at the event, but even just to take a look at yourself inwardly. You know, what am I doing to make this world a better place? What am I doing to serve my fellow human, right? And really seeing how we can step up in 2022 amidst all the chaos, amidst all the evil and all the bad things and just the dark things that are happening in this world. What is one thing that I could do better to stand up for social justice? I think, and it doesn't have to be anti-Black racism. It could, there's so much that's going on. There's human trafficking, you know, there's anti-Asian, there's indigenous issues. There are so many things, you know, the suicidal rates and mental illness is increasing year by year. You know, what can you do to stand up for social justice? And yeah, just thank you for the opportunity, DBoss, and my fellow colleague here, Henry, and the rest of the team who's not with us. God bless each and every one of you. And I certainly hope to see you tomorrow, bright and early at 8:30. Again, you can visit www.canadiancongressondiversity.ca to register for the event. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you, Henry and Moy, and everybody, you know, the ones that hasn't been here. You know, we miss Alex. You know, he wouldn't let us close off. He would wait for me to say, okay, everybody, thank you for coming on. Oh, wait.
Alex yes, Alex is very passionate and he's aware of that. He's very, very passionate, and we love his passion because
we love him for that. No, but Henry hasn't experienced that yet, so.
He's passionate, he's courageous, he's bold, he is a wonderful human being. And if anyone is interested in learning more, you can read about some of his work online. A couple of books he's authored online on YouTube, Alex Ihama. We also have the Alex Ihama Ministries every Sunday, 1 p.m. Toronto time. So many things that people can join the Congress and the School of Greatness, but also making an impact. We may not all be Alex Ihamas or Henry Luyombyas or Moy or DBoss, but if we do something small on a daily basis in our families and communities, the whole world will be a better place, because in the end, tomorrow I may be gone. Actually, I will be gone tomorrow. And what matters is what I'm leaving behind. That is the legacy.
All right. So everybody, I thank you both. And you know, if people go and attend it, it's free. So please, you can go. You have no excuse saying you gotta find some money and all that. You can go. So anyways, I do want to thank all the viewers for watching tonight. Real Life Matters. So everybody, so bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.